The supernatural world is real. Sometimes it manifests to people like you and me who have stories about this, so much more, right here on Supernatural Confrontations. My guest today, Scott Clarke, we're going to get into what we're seeing on a global level, how this dovetails or may dovetail or maybe may not dovetail, depending on what your belief system is, into biblical prophetic passages that are there. And some of these things have been laying for 2,000 years. But first, or I should say laying unfulfilled for 2,000 years. But first, a word from our very trusted sponsor. A recent clinical trial found that participants using just 10 grams of collagen a day for 8 weeks saw up to a 20% increase in skin hydration and a 17% improvement in elasticity, while visibly reducing their wrinkles. Folks, this stuff works. If you're aiming to boost skin health, collagen is a must-have. But typical collagen supplements found on store shelves don't always do the job. This is why I'm using this special blend from my friends over at BioTrust. It provides my skin with the 5 types of premium collagen it needs to help reduce wrinkles. Since taking it, I've seen smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer lines, and a more youthful glow. Plus, it mixes smoothly with my morning coffee or tea. I usually use it in water without anything, and I stir it up real well with one of those little automatic stirs, and it goes down the hatch, goes down the neck really quick, and it's delicious. Folks, here's the deal. Make sure to grab a bag while it's still 51% off at healthwithla.com, healthwithla.com. Plus, you'll also get a free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life and a free ebook entitled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skip, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and shipping with your order. Once again, the website, healthwithla.com, www.healthwithla.com. The link is right below. At least check it out. I use it, and I see the difference. Folks, a 60-day money-back guarantee. And just think about this. Every sale that we do, every sale that BioTrust gets, we donate a nutritious meal to a hungry child. I mean, can you even believe that? It's non-GMO and free of artificial colors, flavors, preservatives, and sweeteners, and free of gluten, antibiotics, and all sorts of other nasty stuff. There's nearly no odor or taste, unlike bone broth and other collagen supplements. There's no clumping. And I use this and absolutely no clumping. I've got one of those little battery operated stirrers, and it really works great. Anyway, folks, check it out. Go to healthwithla.com. That's healthwithla.com. So before I bring Scotty in, folks, I just want to let you know that we do a show here every single day, every day. So you can't wait for YouTube to give you, hey, subscribe. And it doesn't work that way. The algorithm doesn't spit it out. You come here every day, I promise you, there's a new show, new guests, new information. This is The Lord Has Changed Our Ministry. Right next to the subscribe button, I got to slow down here, is a little white button that says join, members only. And I don't know where this show is going to go into members only. It may or may not, but we'll see. But when you do that, you'll get 10% off on everything in the store, 32 films, 15 books, and everything else that we sell at the store. And also get the monthly news magazine for free, and all the perks that you get as being a member. Because we do 7 shows a week that are free, and some for the members. And then I'll also interface with the members. But consider that and pray about it. And when you become a member, it helps keep us doing what we like to do here. So anyway, think about that. Scotty, great to see you. Thanks for coming on the record. And you and I met with the Comet thing in 2017. And I still believe that was a sign. I believe that was a portent of something, especially when it makes that X. And when you go into the X, and Mondo Gonzalez and I talked about that. We did a show on that. You can move it around, but I mean that's not a coinkydink in my opinion. But what have you been up to? What's going on? What do you see happening?
We got in touch because I think you saw one of my recent videos where I had a conversation with AI, and I asked questions about the Antichrist. I asked questions about the timeline, about biblical prophecy. I talked to it about the timeline of Daniel 9:27 and the 70th week, and it for my channel that video's kind of been blowing up, and people are like, wow, well, like what a conversation. And it basically, it said so many things that basically the Antichrist, as like in the Bible, it says that the Antichrist is going to come out of the pit, um, and Lucifer's going to be sent down from heaven, and there's going to be a convergence at Jerusalem. And it said that the Antichrist was already resurrected from the dead, and that it went out, how AI does is it searches the web for information. And it said that there's been a lot of chatter in certain spaces about him being resurrected from the dead in 2013 or 2023 already. So, and it said that he's in, I asked, who's he going to be? What nation is he going to be a leader of? Because he's going to be part of a confirmation of a covenant of peace, which it seems like Donald Trump is making happen right now. And it said that he's in hiding, but he should be a leader of Turkey. Turkey, that's where all of the churches in the New Testament were. That like James wrote to the scattered, the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, James 1:1. And that abroad is that Turkey area. And that's where, Thyatira and Smyrna and Laodicea and
Right. Everything is in that area. Right.
everything was there. And so I've just been really thinking about these things and thinking about also signs in the heavens. We could talk about, there's an eclipse coming next month, at a blood moon or just over.
Gee, what a coincidence.
Yeah. And so I naturally, when we met, I spoke at the conference and you spoke at the conference, and my thing was timeline, like, and signs in the heavenlies, and just like, how do these things converge? And so that's what I have to share with you today is my thoughts on that. Also with graphics, I have some things prepared. So
yeah, I'd have to look at it. We should dive in. And folks, here's the caveat. We're not putting a date on this. We're not saying, thus saith the Lord, or this is going to happen. But as students of biblical prophecy and watching the signs, I mean, I got to tell you, my own heart, I don't know what's coming, but something is coming. There's no doubt. Something is coming. So, Scotty, lead us through it, please.
Okay, well, let's go back to sort of the beginning here. Let's see. I have this. See if that shows up.
Yeah, I can see.
So this is some things that happened about 8 years ago. And we've got Mark Biltz on Prophecy Watchers with Gary Stearman in 2008, I believe. He actually was this over here. He discovered a blood moon tetrad, and these happen on feast days, Passover and Tabernacles, 2 years in a row. And the final one was a supermoon over Jerusalem. And I was studying those signs in the heavens, just to keep it really short, because I've told this 100 times, that I was studying the Star of Bethlehem, because a DVD came out by Rick Larson where he was studying the Star of Bethlehem. And
I'm very familiar with that, right?
Yeah, it was a really nice production.
Yeah.
And so I went into my astronomy program and I decided to take a look at Revelation 12. There's a very definitive sign in the heavens with the sun and the moon in a woman, which there's only one woman in the constellations, which is Virgo, and she's lying on her back here with her legs open, ready to give birth. And that's what it says in Revelation 12, 1 and 2 and 5. There's a woman clothed with the sun and with the moon at her feet, and she's in labor and pain to give birth, and she has a crown of 12 stars above her head. And so I went to go look for that to see if that was actually something, and I had no idea if there really was. But when I was going through the years and trying to figure out if that was a thing, sure enough, I came across September 23rd, 2017, and I found this. And now it's really popular, but a lot of people make videos about these things, and whenever you see Virgo and Leo together, people are reminded of this. And so that's on the timeline here. That happened in 2017. And we met, we met right at this. This is when we met at this solar eclipse right here.
Correct.
And then we had, that's when Trump came into office at this point. And Trump, what he did is he completely knocked off the New World Order's plans. And they weren't expecting him to come in and do what he's doing now. He's basically told everybody that he's going to demolish the deep state. That was one of the things that he said in his rallies and his speeches. Is he says, actually, he used the word obliterate, because that actually rhymes with deep state. He said, I'm going to obliterate the deep state. And that's what he's been doing. He's completely throwing off their 2030 agenda. And so I look at this big pattern here. All of these are have the Star of Remphan on it. That people call it the Star of David, but it's not. That's actually in its cult symbol. But and it has to do with Moloch worship. But we had this really interesting cluster here, right when Trump came into office. And then if we scoot forward, okay, so this is a really big timeline. I'll just zoom it all the way out. I made this big timeline, and I put every eclipse, whether they be solar or lunar, all the way to, I went to 2034. I did this back in 2014, and took a lot of time to make this chart, but I went on the NASA website of the eclipse, endtimeanddate.com, and I just put every eclipse on it just to see this. I wanted to see patterns. And so when we get to, where are we now? So here we are now, and we've got kind of a neat little pattern. The yellow are partials, and the red are, let's put it on the screen. The yellow are partial eclipses, and the red are blood moons, total eclipses. And so on the outer side, you have ones that are seen in Jerusalem. When it has a star on it, it's seen from Jerusalem. And so right here in 2025, this is the one that's about to happen in next month. And we're going to have a blood moon over Jerusalem, because here we are in 2025. And this is what's kind of interesting, is that if we zip forward, I don't know if anybody else has a timeline like this. I think I'm the only one that did this. But when you zip all the way forward to 2029, which would be around the midpoint of a 70th week, if it began this year, you get this massive, like, star. All of these eclipses are happening over Jerusalem, which could be the middle of the 70th week, which we would be in conjecture to say that Michael would cast Lucifer out of heaven, and the second half of the 70th week would begin, which is what's called the Great Tribulation. And so these are just, I'm not saying anything's going to happen, but it's just, what are the odds? Because when you zip back, they happen sort of infrequently, right? They're not everywhere. And this is the only one that's got a whole bunch happening right here, including all these solar eclipses at the same time. So, and if you remember in that conversation with AI, I asked it, when do you see, when do the, I called them psychopaths, because I went into their psychology of all these people who are basically running the world, and it just went through it. Everybody's a sociopath, psychopath, or narcissist. And I said, if you can find out what they're chattering about, what's their information, do they believe in when do they believe that Michael might be casting Lucifer out of heaven? And it said in 3 years. That's what it said. It's in my video. And that would actually be in 2028. But I also asked it if it doesn't see the scenario of maybe a spring of 2029, because it's 3.5 years from, I believe I believe that the 70th week, it's 7 years long. Jesus has to come back in the fall to fulfill fall feast days, because he's already done Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, and Pentecost, but he hasn't done trumpets, tumult, and tabernacles yet. So if the 70th week is 7 years, then that means that the beginning of that 70th week would happen in the fall, so that he would come back in the fall, because it's exactly 7 years. So if that happens this year with Trump getting all these nations to agree to a peace agreement this fall, then 3.5 years in is spring of 29. And there it is. It's a bunch of neat stuff happening there. So that's just one interesting thing. I haven't looked at this chart in years, and I just found it on my hard drive, and I popped it open this morning to look at it, and I was like, whoa. So that's something that's interesting. And then when we get over here to 2032 and 23, which would be around when Jesus comes back, look at that. Just interesting. Just interesting. So, and then if I take a look at, let's see, I just went through the Bible and was just looking at a lot of these Bible verses that talk about the sun and the moon, Isaiah 13:10 for this, and this all has to do with the second coming of Christ, which is the end of the 70th week. It says, "For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light, and the sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. And if one look to the land, behold darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth." That means Lucifer's going to be bound for 1,000 years. This is a cross-reference to Revelation 20, verses 1 and 2, Isaiah 24, 21, because he's going to punish the host of the high ones that are on high. And it actually says in verse 22 that he's going to put them in prison and they won't be visited for many days. That's the 1,000 years.
Right.
And then Lucifer's loose for a little season. But then it says, "The moon shall be confounded and the sun ashamed when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem and before his ancients gloriously. And when I shall put thee out, I will cover the heaven, and I will make the stars thereof dark, and I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give her light. And the bright lights of heaven will I make dark over thee, and set darkness upon thy land, saith the Lord God." Joel 2, says the one that's cross-referenced in Acts 2. "The earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, and the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The sun and the moon turn to darkness, the moon to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining." Amos 8, "And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord God, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day." Really interesting stuff going on in the heavens with the sun and the moon and the stars. "I will turn your feasts into mourning and your psalms to lamentation. I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins and baldness upon every head. I will make it as the morning of an only son." They're gonna see, they'll look upon the one that they've pierced, right? "And the end thereof is a bitter day." Zephaniah 1, "That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of the trumpet." Feast of Trumpets is what I think of there. "An alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers." Matthew 24, we know this. "Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. But in those days after that tribulation," this is synoptic, "the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light." Synoptic again, "And there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, and the sea and the waves roaring. And behold, when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood." This is everywhere. And this is just,
Yeah, let me just jump in here. What kind of blows me away is that we've heard over the last couple of years, 3 days of darkness, and especially in the last couple of months, I've been getting emails and links. 3 days of darkness are coming. 3 days of darkness are coming. 3 days of darkness are coming. There are these little girls. I think you may have run the clip on that. They had visions, and they're like little kids, are like dreams, like 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old. They have no knowledge of Revelation or the Synoptic Gospels or the Second Coming or anything. And they're talking about the rapture of a church. And they're saying it's sooner than anyone thinks. And, I got this exact word, sooner than you think. I got that word, a while back. And what does that mean? Not a date setter. We're not saying it's going to happen on September 23rd or the 24th of this year. But you know what? It could. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we are headed, look, with AI, and I just got off another interview with our friend Jim Peterson, and we're at the point where you don't know what the truth is anymore. You don't know what you're looking at because, AI can create something, and was that real? Does that person even exist? You don't even know anymore. So how can we be accountable for anything? But these 3 little girls, and there's no collusion between the 3 of them. They're all talking the same thing. "I saw Jesus, and he told me to tell you he's coming back sooner than you think." The same exact verbiage I heard, sooner than you think. Now, I don't know what that means. Is that a year, 10 years? I don't know. But we're in this is my question. We are in an unprecedented window of time. AI is reproducing itself every 12 minutes now. which is like, I can't even imagine that. I don't even understand. I can't get my head around that. So everything seems to be pointing your chart, and charts are great. I understand that. But it's just another coinkydink that we're getting all this around Jerusalem, or what is your personal thought? Because I think we're on the verge of something. I really do.
So the thing, I'm like I just go like hardcore into. I've changed. I grew up in sort of a dispensationalist belief system, and I've had a lot of questions. There's a lot of different belief systems out there, but when things don't make sense to me, then I try to figure out what does. And what I did was, number one, I switched Bibles. I grew up on an NIV. I've switched to the KJV because it makes sense and it really cross references.
Yeah.
And I'm so satisfied with cross references. I find words and phrases that's like over there, and then that's cross reference over there, and it's perfect. It fits really well together. So one thing that I've learned is that you have to use the right text. So I've switched to that. I also have become an absolute literalist.
Xavier.
I don't spiritualize things anymore. It's just like I just find what it says, and then I just decided I'm gonna adhere my belief system to exactly what it says, because making stuff up anymore hasn't satisfied me. So when it comes to the timeline of events, what I'm really looking at right now is what I'm looking at the peace agreement, because we are not in a time period right now where definitive Bible verses are being fulfilled. It literally starts with Daniel 9:27. We left off with Daniel 9:26. Daniel 9:26 is a 40-year verse. I break it up into two different parts. There's let me actually go there because this is kind of important. So let me go to Daniel 9. This is literally like the crux of the whole thing, and what everybody should be sort of like having on their mind as far as I'm concerned. So the prophecy is, here we go, and let's do that, and this. All right, so there's the Bible. KJ, this is the e-sword. And so the angel, when Daniel is in Babylon, they had just been punished for 70 years, and they were taken out of their city, and they were going to have to go back and rebuild it. The first temple had been destroyed, and they were punished for not letting the land rest every year, or every 7 years. And so they were punished for 77s. And so then Gabriel tells Daniel, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, the Israelites, and upon thy holy city. So this is literally not about America.
No.
It's not any other name. This is about Jerusalem and the people of God's promises, whom he's talking to here, Daniel. And he says that 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, Israel's transgression against their God, which is why they were just punished in Babylon for 70 years. And to make an end of sins, their sins, and to make reconciliation for their iniquities, and to bring in everlasting righteousness. And what that means is that they're going to be resurrected from the dead. In Ezekiel 37, it talks about the valley of dry bones. The whole house of Israel is resurrected from the dead. And eventually they're going to be judged as sheep and goats. And the sheep are going to be kings and priests for 1,000 years, which is Exodus. This is the promise from Exodus 19:5-6. Which it says that you'll be a peculiar people unto me, and above all people, and that's for Israel. So everlasting righteousness means immortality, because you can't be everlastingly righteous in a mortal body. And to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy, that means that Jesus Christ will be anointed as the King of Israel. And so that's going to happen after 70 weeks. A week is 7 years in this context, not 7 days. And then he goes into saying that there's going to be a commandment to restore Jerusalem. And then there's a count, which I don't need to get into the whole count, but basically there was a count that happened. And then Jesus would come into Jerusalem and be cut off. I was just trying to get to this verse here, Daniel 9:26, because I want to show you it's in two parts. That there's a colon right here, and it says after 62 weeks, which is also added to a previous 7, which is 69 weeks of years, which is 483 years, that Jesus would be cut off, but not for himself, because he died for their iniquities. And And then it says this is basically Daniel 9:26a up here, and that was in about 32, maybe 32 AD. Let's just call it that. And then this right here is 40 years later. This is 78 AD. This is the destruction of Jerusalem, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city. So that's not Israelites. Up here, it says that up here, this is the Israelite people. Up here, that's one people. This is the Israelites. And what they did is they restore and rebuilt Jerusalem. That's the Israelites. And you have another people down here, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city. So that's not Israelites. Some people try to make this prince Jesus, but it's not off because it's the people of the prince that shall come. These are destroying people, because you've got, these are building people up here. These people, they restore and build, and then you have the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And that's an invasion of men. Jerusalem was surrounded and then overtaken, and it's a flood of men, like Lord of the Rings, when you just have all these men coming after the castle or something like that. And the end thereof, the end of the war, desolations are determined. So basically what happened is Jerusalem became desolate. So this right here is like 32 AD. And this actually, if you look it up, it was actually 7 years it happened. It wasn't exactly 70 AD. I mean, they say that the temple was destroyed in 70, but it actually lasted from about 67 to 72 or 73 in there, the whole thing. It takes time. So this is a 40-year verse, basically, like let's say 32 to 72 in here. But we live in the white space between this verse and this verse. And so this is what I'm looking for. And that's this prince up here, which is not the Messiah. That's the destroying. He's of the destroyers. He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And I look at that, LA, as being what Trump is doing right now. He's gathering nations. He's literally going to all these different wars and skirmishes. And there's a lot going on that we don't even know about because it's not in our news. He was just like last week, I think he like completed a peace deal with Azerbaijan. And
it's unprecedented.
But yeah. And so he's going individually to these different nations saying, okay, stop fighting. Let's make a deal. You guys stop fighting. Let's make a deal. You guys stop fighting. Let's make a deal. So he's going on an individual basis to all these different wars and he's stopping them. The big one's going to be Russia and Ukraine, which he didn't quite get that done yesterday, but that's fine because we have like a month, like literally it kind of could work just fine towards going into the fall. And so that's what I'm really looking at that, right? I'm not looking at supernatural events. I'm looking at what's written and I'm looking at, this is politics is what this is. And that I think is what we're looking at. I think Trump really, he's the guy who wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. It's what he does. He makes deals and he's literally the guy, I think. That doesn't mean that he's the prince that shall come. He's not like making he's getting everyone together, but he doesn't even, like America, him being the leader of America, I don't believe he doesn't need to be involved in the covenant itself because he's not a threat to anybody. He's not in any wars. He's getting people who are in wars to stop it, and that's a covenant. Israel's not involved, I don't think, just yet, but they just said that they're going to dominate Gaza. So we might even see in the next month Israel at war again. Anyway, so I'm seeing that maybe in the next month, if we start to see these things happen, Trump is going to come in, and if he stops all these things, and then relating to Israel and Jerusalem itself, if the number 7 years is connected to that in the news, headlines, we're in the 70th week. And that's what I'm looking at right there.
Wow. Folks, I'm going to cut it off here, and we're going to go to members only because we have to. It's just, Sky, just hang with me, and I'll wrap up this section, and then we'll go to members only. Folks, thanks so much for watching. Wow, a lot of information. We're going to get into some other stuff for members only. So consider becoming a member. For 30 cents a day, you can become a member, and you get, once again, our monthly news magazine, great articles on that, 10% off on everything in the store. And of course, you get this content that the rest of the people don't see. But we're here 7 days a week. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow with another show. And in the meantime, God bless you all. And thanks for coming here and subscribing and watching the content.